If you enjoyed the video and find it useful for you to fall asleep to, help by subscribing. Thanks. It started when I moved into my new apartment, nothing fancy, just a one-bedroom place in a quiet corner of the city. I needed a reset after my last relationship exploded like a chemistry experiment gone wrong. So when I stumbled on a listing with decent rent and good lighting, I didn't hesitate. The landlord, a woman named Grace, seemed chill enough, if not a little eccentric. "You'll love the neighbors," she had said with a mischievous glint in her eye. I should have asked for clarification. The first few days were quiet. I spent time unpacking, reorganizing, and learning how the water heater worked. The trick was to threaten it with a wrench. It wasn't until the following Friday that I first encountered the girl across the hall. Her name was Lana. She introduced herself by knocking on my door around 10 p.m. I opened it in sweatpants, half a pizza in one hand and a beer in the other. "Hey," she said, leaning against the doorframe with an almost comically casual posture. She was wearing a hoodie 2 sizes too big and nothing underneath but tight black shorts. "Sorry to bother you. I locked myself out and my phone's inside. Any chance I could borrow yours?" I blinked. She smiled, like she knew exactly what she was doing. Yeah, sure. Come in." As she stepped inside, her scent hit me, some mix of vanilla and trouble. She perched on the edge of my couch like a cat, scrolling through my phone with long fingers. I tried not to stare, but it was like asking someone not to breathe. She had this chaotic beauty, like a thunderstorm behind blue eyes. "Thanks," she said after calling the locksmith. "You just move in?" "Yeah. 3 days ago." "Cool. I'm Lana. Apartment 4B. Chris. 4A. We shook hands. Her fingers lingered just a little too long. "Wanna split that pizza while I wait?" she asked. And just like that, I was on the couch beside her, watching her demolish half the slices while she told me about the building. Grace is a fun. She hosts wine nights for tenants, but she gets weird after 2 glasses. Like, weird. Weird how? She once read tarot cards for everyone. Said my aura had a lustful entanglement energy. She winked. She wasn't wrong. I choked on my beer. She laughed. The locksmith arrived, broke the moment, and she left me with a smirk and the rest of the pizza. I didn't sleep well that night. Over the next few days, I kept running into Lana. Laundry room. Mailbox. Stairwell. Each time, there was this tension, unspoken, charged. Like static before a lightning strike. One evening I got back late from work and found a note taped to my door. "Wine night. 8 p.m. Graces. Bring yourself. Or don't. Your loss. L." I showed up, not because of the wine, but because Lana's scrawl had been teasing my brain all day. Grace's apartment looked like it belonged to a bohemian fortune teller. Tapestries, low lights, cushions everywhere. There were 6 of us. Me, Lana, Grace, and 3 others. A quiet guy named Miguel, an artist girl named 4. The others laughed it off, but Lana kept looking at me like she knew something I didn't. Later that night, when most had left, Lana cornered me in the kitchen. "Wanna know my biggest secret?" she asked. "Always." She stepped closer, her voice a whisper. "I like being watched." I blinked. "Watched doing what?" Her lips almost touched my ear. "Everything." Then she was gone. No goodbye, no explanation. I stood in that kitchen for 10 minutes, heart pounding like a drum. The next day, I couldn't stop thinking about what she'd said. My apartment faced hers. Our windows were almost directly across. That night, I turned off all my lights and looked out through the blinds. Her curtains were open. She stood in the window, wearing nothing but a robe, loosely tied. She looked straight at me. And then, with slow, deliberate movements, she untied the robe. It fell to the floor. I froze, mouth dry. She didn't smile. Didn't wave. Just turned slowly, revealing everything, then walked out of view like it was nothing. I spent the rest of the night spiraling. Was that a signal? Was I imagining it? Was this some weird neighbor game? The next morning, she knocked on my door again. "Hey," she said casually. "You see anything interesting last night?" I opened my mouth, closed it again. She grinned. "Just making sure the view's as good from your side as it is from mine." That was how it started. What followed was a month of the most confusing, electrifying, head-spinning interactions of my life. And things only got weirder from there. The next week became a fever dream. Lana made no attempt to pretend things were normal. Every day, she dropped little bombs on my sanity. Sometimes it was as simple as brushing her fingers against mine when passing in the hallway. Other times, it was her knocking on my door wearing a towel that was clearly fighting gravity. "Forgot my laundry in the machine. You mind grabbing it for me? I can't go down like this." She'd tilt her head just enough for the towel to slip slightly, her smirk all teeth and danger. But it wasn't just the teasing. It was how normal she could be in the next moment. One second, she was a walking innuendo, the next, she was asking if I liked peanut butter cookies and offering to bake a batch. I started questioning my own mind. Was I reading too much into this? Was she just one of those people who lived life like a flirt? It didn't help that Grace kept winking at me every time I passed her in the hallway. "She's chaos in silk," Grace once said to me as we crossed paths outside the building. "Don't get too close, or you might forget which way is up." "Too late," I muttered. But the defining moment, the point of no return, happened the night the building lost power. It was a thunderstorm. Sheets of rain hammered the windows and the lights flickered until everything went dark. I grabbed a flashlight and started lighting candles. Just as I got the last one lit, a knock came at my door. Of course it was Lana. She was soaked. I stepped aside and let her in, tossing her a dry hoodie. She peeled off her wet shirt without a second thought, standing there in a bra that should have been illegal. "You got wine?" I blinked. "Ah, yeah." We ended up sitting on my couch, bathed in candlelight, sipping red wine while the storm screamed outside. At first, we talked. She told me about growing up in a too-strict household, about her first tattoo, a tiny key on her hip, about the time she ran away to New Orleans for a week at age 17. I told her about my last relationship, how it ended with a phone thrown into a pond and an Uber ride of shame. Somewhere in the middle of the second glass, she looked at me and said, "You're holding back." "What?" You've been holding back since we met. Like you're afraid of where this goes." She leaned in, close enough that I could feel the heat of her breath. "I'm not." And then she kissed me. It wasn't slow. It wasn't soft. It was like the storm outside had jumped into her veins and was now pouring into me. We knocked over a candle. She laughed. I caught her waist, pulled her in. Our glasses hit the floor. She climbed onto my lap, fingers tangled in my hair, and for the next hour, I forgot what caution even was. But just when I thought the moment would crash into something inevitable, she stopped. Pulled back. Eyes wide. "What's wrong?" she asked. She stood, breathing hard, adjusting her hoodie. "I can't." "Why not?" "Because you're not confused enough yet." Then she left. Just like that. The storm didn't end until morning. The power stayed off the whole night, but I didn't sleep. What did she mean by that? Not confused enough. Was this a game? A test? The next day, I got a message slipped under my door. It was typed, printed neatly. "You're being watched. Not just by me. There's more to this building than you know. Don't trust the woman in 3C. Wear something blue tonight." There was no name. Just that. I ran downstairs. Lana's door was locked. I knocked. Nothing. I went to 3C. It was a retired violinist named Margaret who always smelled like cinnamon. She seemed normal. Too normal. Now I was spiraling. I went back up, sat on my bed, staring at the note. Something blue. Why? Who sent it? And why did I feel like this entire building was a set on a stage, and I was just starting to see the audience? That night, I put on a navy sweater, closest thing I had to blue, and waited. At 10 p.m., another knock. Lana again. This time, she wore a tight black dress, lipstick sharp enough to carve runes into my sanity. Come with me. Where? Just trust me. I followed her down the stairs, out the back door, into the alley behind the building. She moved quickly, barefoot, like a shadow made flesh. She pulled me behind the dumpsters into a hidden stairwell I didn't even know existed. There was a door at the bottom. She opened it with a key around her neck. Inside was a room. Not a normal room. Red velvet curtains. A projector. Cameras. Multiple chairs. And on one of the walls a monitor. Playing footage of my apartment. Footage of me. Changing. Sleeping. Talking on the phone. I froze. What the hell is this? She didn't answer. She walked over to a console and hit a switch. The footage changed. Now it was Lana's apartment. Her. Undressing. Dancing. Talking on the phone to someone named Kay. I turned. She was watching me. Do you get it now? She asked. No. She stepped close. This building watches. Listens. Records. And sometimes we play along. You're in on this. Sometimes. She reached into a drawer and handed me a small black remote. Your turn. I stared at it. What am I supposed to do? Whatever you want. The remote felt heavier than it should. Black, smooth, and warm like it had just been used. What happens if I press a button? She asked. Lana just smiled. Depends. Depends what you want. Depends what you're willing to see. The monitor shifted again. Now it was split screen, one half showing me earlier this week, brushing my teeth, muttering a tune, the other half showing Grace in her apartment is staring directly into the camera. You're saying she knows? I whispered. She set this up, Lana said, nodding slowly. Well, not just her. This goes back years. This building is curated. Some call it an experiment. Others say it's an art piece. Me? I think it's a mirror. A mirror. Of who we are. What we hide. What we want when no one's watching except someone always is. The weight of it all crashed down on me. You've been watching me. Yes. Why? Because you were interesting. Because you moved in and didn't stare too long. Because when I flashed you from my window, you didn't touch yourself. You panicked. That was anew. I didn't know what to say. The lines between right and wrong had been blurred, smeared, maybe even erased. So what now? Now? Lana purred. Now you decide. You can go back upstairs. Pretend none of this ever happened. Or she walked behind me, breath brushing my neck, you press a button and we see what happens. I looked at the remote again. It had 3 buttons, red, green, blue. My thumb hovered. Which one? She shrugged. Red records. Green plays. Blue surprises. That night, I pressed blue. The screen flickered. The camera view switched to my own apartment again, but the timestamp was the following morning. 9:13 a.m. What the hell? That's tomorrow, Lana whispered. It showed me standing in my kitchen, shirtless, making coffee. Behind me, the door creaked open. Lana walked in, wrapped her arms around me from behind, and I smiled. You see it, she whispered. See what's coming? That hasn't happened yet. But it will. I looked at her. Is this a prediction? She shrugged. Or a plan? I should have walked away. I should have said it was insane, creepy, disturbing. But instead, I laughed. The kind of laugh people make when they are at the edge of a cliff and feel the wind pulling at their jacket. You're crazy, I said. I'm honest. I turned to her. All right. What happens next? She smiled. Now? Now we test boundaries. Lana led me through a narrow door behind the console room, revealing a hallway lined with more monitors. One showed Ivy from down the hall painting on her apartment floor, nude except for streaks of red and orange pigment across her arms. Another showed Miguel crying into his hands in his bathroom. Another, Grace, again, watching another monitor. It was looping a video of me and Lana's first conversation. They are all watching. Sometimes. Some know. Some pretend they don't. And you all just let it happen. It's not about letting. It's about choosing. I turned to her. And what do you choose? She reached for my hand and placed it over her heartbeat. I choose the storm. We spent the night exploring the underbelly of the building. There were secret doors, stairs that didn't go where they should, mirrors that were two-way glass. It was like the building had been designed by a voyeuristic magician. Eventually, we returned to her apartment. I stood awkwardly in the middle of her living room while she poured tea like it was a normal Wednesday. "Do you want to ask me the question?" she said. "What question?" "Why me? Why you? Why this? All of it." She sat beside me and pulled her legs up under her. "Because I knew you wouldn't run. You hesitated, yeah. But something in you wanted to understand. I still don't." She tilted her head. "Then let me show you more." She led me into her bedroom. It was sparse, just a mattress on the floor, blackout curtains, books scattered everywhere. But one wall was covered in photos. Hundreds of Polaroids, printed screenshots, scribbled notes. One photo showed me carrying a box into the building on my first day. Another, me sleeping. Another, me watching her from my window. "You've been documenting me." She nodded. "I'm not the only one." I looked closer. Some of the photos weren't of me. They were of others. Ivy. Miguel. Grace. Even Jules. All captured in vulnerable, private moments. Why? Because we are pieces of something. Every tenant is chosen. Not just for the lease. For the show. The show. You'll see. The next morning, I woke to find a small envelope slipped under my door again. Inside was a keycard and a note in Lana's handwriting. "Tonight. 11:30, basement level 3. Wear the same sweater. No questions." I stared at it for a long time. Basement level 3. I didn't even know our building had a third basement. I spent the day restless. At work, I couldn't focus. Every conversation felt like it was just noise, like I was in a dream where everyone else was still asleep. I checked the keycard at least a dozen times, half expecting it to disappear. That night, I dressed deliberately. Same navy sweater. Sneakers with soft soles. I left my phone behind, unsure if it would be welcome where I was going. At 11:25 p.m., I slipped out and made my way to the elevator. I pressed B2, held it until the light blinked 3 times, then pressed 1. The panel changed. B3 appeared, glowing red. A soft mechanical click followed. The elevator hummed downward, deeper than I thought possible. When the doors opened, I stepped into a hallway bathed in red light. The air was cooler, still. Almost too still. Lana was waiting. She wore a black coat over a red dress, high heels in one hand, barefoot on the cement floor. Her eyes met mine without a word, and she turned, gesturing me to follow. We walked past storage rooms, old pipes, rows of servers humming softly behind glass. Then we reached a black steel door. The keycard unlocked it with a small beep. Inside was a circular room. Velvet-lined walls. A sunken floor with cushions and low seats. Around the edge were 8 figures in dark robes, hoods up, faces shadowed. At the center was a single chair. Lana walked toward it, turned, and whispered. "Don't speak. Just listen." A voice boomed from the far side of the room. Modulated. Genderless. Subject 4A has been observed for 43 days. Another voice chimed in. Observed voluntarily. Interaction accelerated by Agent 4B. Subject response. Engaged curiosity, confusion, partial compliance. I froze. They were talking about me. Phase 2 redness, confirmed. Emotional enter. Then the modulated voice replied, calmly, this is your introduction. To what? The real lease. I blinked. What does that mean? Lana finally stepped forward. This building isn't random. Everyone here agreed, in some way, knowingly or not, to be part of something bigger. An experiment. An experience. Like a social test. More like a live archive. Emotions, choices, consequences. All observed, catalogued, but never controlled. You're saying you're not actors. Not actors. Participants. Volunteers. Voyeurs. Witnesses. One of the robed figures finally pulled back their hood. It was Grace. She looked calm, almost maternal. You intrigued us, Chris. Most people either crumble under confusion or try to escape it. But you? You leaned into it. You looked for understanding. This isn't understanding, I said, shaking my head. It's a manipulation. Surveillance. No, Grace said softly. It's intimacy. You just never knew what that really meant until now. I sat in the center chair. Everything was spinning. Lana kneeled beside me. This is the final offer, she said. You walk now, your memory stays hazy. A blur of strange days and stranger nights. But if you stay, you see what we see. Which is what? Everything. The room darkened. A single spotlight lit the far wall. A projection began. Footage of me. Every moment since I'd moved in. Not just the public ones, the private, too. Moments I forgot. Me crying over an old voicemail. Me dancing half-naked to a stupid song. Me talking to myself in the mirror, trying to psych up for a job interview. Me being me. Unfiltered. Uncurated. Raw. And the others had seen it all. I looked at Lana. Why? Because there's something beautiful in real things. We all agreed to this. To be seen. Completely. And you want me to join? She smiled. No. I want you to choose. I sat in that chair a long time. The images stopped, but the silence said more than the footage ever could. All of them. Grace, Lana, maybe even Ivy, had seen me at my most unguarded. And not just seen. Studied. Archived. Interpreted. And still, they waited for an answer. What happens if I say no? I asked finally. You go back, Lana said softly. No more cameras. No more hidden rooms. No more me. And if I say yes? Grace stepped forward. You become part of the mirror. You watch and you are watched. Fully. Truthfully. Without the armor. The idea was terrifying. But oddly thrilling. How do you live like that? She asked. Knowing every thought, every gesture, could be played back. You learn not to perform, Grace said. And you learn what it means to be truly intimate. There was a kind of reverence in her voice that made me wonder just how deep this went. Lana sat beside me again. It's not a cult. There's no dogma. Just honesty. Sometimes messy. Sometimes gorgeous. Always real. She touched my hand. We don't force anyone to stay. But you were chosen for a reason. Why me? Because you crave clarity, she said. And confusion only bothers people like you when it hides something worth finding. I laughed, a dry, stunned sound. So what, you just live your life with the curtains open? We live our truth with the volume up. It sounded absurd. But I thought about the footage they'd shown. Not just me, but everyone. The mistakes, the joy, the vulnerability. It was terrifying. And addicting. I stood slowly. Lana's eyes didn't leave mine. All right, I said. I'll stay. A soft rustling passed through the room. It wasn't applause. It was something more solemn. Like a ceremony had quietly completed. Grace stepped forward and handed me a small pin. A silver eye. Welcome to the mirror. Things changed after that. Not in the way you'd expect. No sudden transformations or eerie chants. No secret handshakes or midnight rituals. Just awareness. At first, it was overwhelming. Walking through the halls knowing someone might be watching. Catching your reflection and wondering who else saw it. Realizing every conversation could be part of a bigger narrative. But slowly, it became freeing. Because the truth is, I stopped pretending. I stopped crafting the good tenant version of myself. I let myself yell when I stubbed my toe. I let myself cry when an old movie hit too hard. I danced when the mood struck. I talked to the cat that lived near the mailboxes. I lived. And Lana? She was a whirlwind. Some nights, she'd climb through my window just to read poetry aloud until we both passed out. Other times, we'd spend hours in the projection room, watching old footage from before I even moved in. She once showed me a 10-minute silent film of Grace kissing someone goodbye in a stairwell. No sound. Just lips. Eyes. Pain. Everything means something if you look long enough, Lana whispered. It wasn't always romantic. Some days she ignored me completely. Other days she was fire and sugar in equal measure. But there was never any pretending. That was the rule. Be real or be gone. I started helping in the archive room. Logging emotions. Labeling clips. Learning how to find the moment of shift in someone's footage, the exact second where something changed in them. A decision. A heartbreak. A surrender. It was like watching souls in slow motion. One night, Lana showed me my own file. It was terrifyingly complete. Why show me this now? Because you need to see what we saw. She played a moment from week 2. I was sitting on the couch, eating. You were you, she said. Before you knew we were watching. And that was the point. True self, when no one's watching. That was what they wanted to preserve. Or maybe a witness. Not everything was beautiful, though. Some tenants left. Some couldn't handle it. Some grew paranoid. Others too performative, turning their lives into stage plays, hoping for validation instead of honesty. The mirror doesn't flatter. It reflects. And not everyone likes what they see. One man tried to burn the cameras out. Another mailed himself a dead bird with a note that said, "No more metaphors." He left 2 days later. The building absorbed it all. Quietly. Respectfully. It never punished. It just awaited. And always, new tenants came. Always chosen. Always curious. Always watched. There's something about truth that makes desire burn brighter. Without the need to impress, or lie, or hide, every brush of skin felt amplified, like permission had been replaced by pure instinct. In the mirror, lust wasn't filtered through games or half sentences. It was seen. And being seen changed everything. It started one rain-soaked night in Lana's apartment. No projection, no audience, at least not visibly. Just us. The storm outside was loud, and the power flickered like a heartbeat. I was soaked from walking back from the corner store. She opened the door wearing nothing but one of my old shirts she'd somehow stolen and never gave back. "You're late," she murmured, stepping aside. "You're half naked." "Only half." I dropped the bag of snacks on her table. My fingers were numb, trembling a little from the cold, but her apartment was warm, and so was her mouth when it pressed against mine before I could speak again. She kissed like she argued, relentless, unapologetic, full of teeth and purpose. My hands found her hips, and hers slipped under my sweater, skin to skin, warm enough to erase the chill. "No more pretending," she whispered, voice low, breath hot against my neck. "I want you real. Not careful." "I've been careful." She bit my shoulder gently. "Too careful." So I stopped. I grabbed her by the waist and lifted her onto the kitchen counter, the clatter of glass forgotten. She wrapped her legs around me like she'd been waiting to. Her hands ran through my hair, yanking, pulling, directing. The storm outside howled louder. Inside, the thunder was us. We moved through her apartment like gravity was a suggestion. The couch, the floor, the window glass slick with condensation. Every piece of fabric between us disappeared, slowly, with intention. Her skin glowed under flashes of lightning. "I want to be remembered like this," she gasped, nails digging into my back. "Not from the cameras. From you." "You already are," I growled into her neck, biting just enough for her to gasp again. Hours passed, blurred by sweat and laughter and things neither of us said but both felt. There was no script, no playing. Just heat and pressure, and two people unraveling each other until sleep stole tea. Or maybe the mirror just wanted us to believe we were. The morning after, Lana traced circles on my chest as sunlight crept through the blinds. "Do you think they watched?" "I don't care," I murmured. She smiled. "Good answer. I mean it. I think. I wanted them to." "You wanted to be seen like that?" I paused. "I wanted to be known." She tilted her head, eyes studying mine. "Then you're ready for the final room." I blinked. "There's a final room. There's always a final room." The final room wasn't in any blueprint. Not even in the server maps I'd helped catalog. Lana led me down past the known basements, through an access hallway I'd never noticed behind the laundry chute. The air was warmer here, thick, humming with low vibrations like the building itself was holding its breath. At the end of the hallway was a matte black door with no handle. She pressed her palm against it. The wall scanned her silently. A click. Then darkness. "Take off your clothes," Lana whispered. "Here?" She stepped in, letting her dress fall behind her like a shadow peeling off. "Trust me." I followed. Skin bared. Heart racing. The door shut behind us, swallowing the light. Total darkness. Not black. Void. Then. A flicker. And suddenly we weren't alone. All around us were images, projections on every wall, every surface, even the floor. And every single one of them was me. Different times. Different angles. Different moods. Laughing, crying, arguing, lost in thought. Naked. Dressed. Alone. With her. "This is the full archive," Lana whispered beside me, also naked, her body warm against mine. Unfiltered. Unedited. I turned in slow circles. The entire room was my life. "My God. You've seen parts," she continued, pressing her lips to my neck, "but this is everything. Every frame. Every breath. Even the ones you thought were hidden." One of the clips showed me from 6 years ago, before I even moved in. In a cafe. Talking to a woman I barely remembered. The footage zoomed slightly as I touched my face, and she smiled at me. Something flickered in my eyes in that moment. Something I couldn't name. "I've been watched that long." "No," Lana whispered, lips at my ear. "You've been loved that long." She stepped in front of me, bathed in the glow of memories, her body framed by images of us together. Her hands moved up my chest, slow, reverent. "I need you to understand something," she said, eyes locking with mine. "Everyone else who joined the mirror, they were content being seen. But you? You were felt. And you?" She asked, voice hoarse. "What were you?" She leaned in. I was changed. Her kiss wasn't like before. It was slow. Searing. Like she was trying to burn her shape into my skin. Around us, the projections melted into moments of us, our first accidental eye contact through the window, our second meeting in the hallway, the blue button night, the rainstorm, the laughter. Then newer moments. Ones that hadn't happened yet. A flash of us on a rooftop, laughing. A moment in bed, older, fingers laced. A quiet dinner with Ivy and Miguel, toasting something invisible. A room with a crib in the corner. I pulled back, breath caught in my chest. "What is this?" "The future," she said. "Or the possibility of one." My head spun. "This is why you brought me here." She nodded. To let me choose. And if I walk away now? You'll still be remembered, Lana said gently. But you'll stop remembering. The mirror only keeps what is shared. What is kept alive. And if I stay? Her voice trembled for the first time. Then you become part of it. Part of me. Not as a subject, but as a constant. I looked around the room at every version of myself, every truth, every mistake and miracle. And I realized there was no lie left. No shame. No mask. Just me. Seen. Held. Known. I turned back to her. Took her hands in mine. And nodded. Lana kissed me like it was the first time again, and this time, I didn't care if we were being watched. In fact, I hoped we were. Because if being truly seen was the price for this kind of truth, it was worth it. Every blinding second.